up? My name is John Bonjour. I am a comic book artist and film enthusiast, which makes me the only person you should listen to when doing an MCU rewatch to end all MCU rewatches. On the road to Avengers Doomsday, we are watching everything in the MCU in chronological order. We have now made it to the Incredible Hulk. We've made it to the Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk was directed by Louis Leterrier and stars Edward Norton, which will be interesting later. It's a movie that I have seen far too recently, and I try to enter these as if it's the first time I've ever seen it, but I watched this last year almost exactly the same time in preparation for Captain America Brave New World, and I enjoyed it then. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I picked up on a lot of things then, and if I had been making this video then, I probably would have been very hot on the movie. I would have been very high on it. Making the video now, having now seen it again, I don't love this movie. I think The Incredible Hulk is a deeply flawed movie with some very, very good moments. There's a very interesting general magic trick to the movie where it kind of sucks for 3/4 of the runtime, and then the final action sequence is so good that I gaslight myself into being like, have I loved this the whole time? This is a movie that is so boring, and I don't use that word lightly because I don't think that's a fair criticism of a movie generally speaking. However, I think that for a movie to not be boring, you have to invest in the characters, and this is a movie that has almost no interest in actually investing with the characters. And I'm gonna be pretty harsh on this movie because I don't want to lie to you guys. I don't want to pretend like I liked this movie more. I am a defender of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I am a defender of the last act of this movie, but I am not a defender of this movie because I don't think, as a film, I don't think it's very good. Edward Norton is a guy who I think could play a really good Bruce Banner, and in this, I think he even does kind of play a really good Bruce Banner, but he is not given anything to do. He's given no character moments. He is, at the start of the movie, he is guy who has this horrible Hulk being inside him who is on the run from the government. And at the end of the movie, he is guy who can kind of control this horrible Hulk being in him who is on the run from the government. He gets back with Betty and develops his romantic interest with her to only leave her again. And in the grand scheme of the MCU, not see her again for another like 28 movies. But also that relationship, the dynamic between Edward Norton and I always want to say Evangeline Lilly. The dynamic between Edward Norton and Liv Tyler is almost non-existent. I feel bad about this. I feel bad about this because I see what I think we're trying to do, and I understand that it is a character choice because Liv Tyler has been good in other things. She's good in The Lord of the Rings and probably other things. I genuinely hate the way that she plays Betty Ross. I cannot stand the lilty, quiet, whispery little, I don't know if you should be the Hulk kind of character that she plays. It is so frustrating and not fun to watch, and this is gonna sound bad, not attractive, and I don't mean that in the way that it sounds because that sounds really gross. What I mean is, for a romantic relationship to work in a movie, you have to sense that they are attracted to each other. You have to feel the spark between the two characters and have that energy between them, and there just isn't any. And I think Edward Norton is playing what he is given relatively well, and I honestly think Liv Tyler is also playing what she's given well. I truly believe that this was a choice on the director's part that sucks, because there is no way that she made the choice to play the character like this, because it's crazy and weird. And Edward Norton is also not getting off scot-free here. I think he, again, plays the character that he's given relatively well, but he also just is a very, lifeless performance. He's very... I hate to, rag on these people because they're, doing their best, but what he's given, maybe it was a director's note, maybe it was his own choice, a lot of his line deliveries feel flat, and a lot of them feel just kind of, meandering and not intentional and not attentive to the scene. And the problem is, the first 2 acts of this movie are reliant on their relationship. There's 1, maybe 2 decent Hulk action sequences in the beginning 2/3 of the movie, and that is not enough to make it good. That is not enough to make it worth the time. The fact that the majority of the film relies on these 2 people that A, have no chemistry, and B, are playing these characters in the weirdest possible ways. It just does not work. The fact that Tim Roth and William Hurt have more chemistry than the romantic leads of the film is not a good sign. Speaking of which, I will say, Tim Roth does a wonderful job. He plays Emil Blonsky, and he is just chewing up the scenery. Same with William Hurt. He is a cigar-chomping, loud, weird, brash American, and he is crushing that. I think those two characters are really fun, and whenever we're in scenes with those two, I have a lot more fun than when we're in the quiet, romantic scenes between the other two characters. That said, and I think I've gotten my point out on that, the Hulk bits in this movie are astronomically good. I mean, they're just so much fun. The bits where he is actually Hulk play so well that it makes me wonder if I liked the movie. There's that field action sequence where Blonsky has kind of been juiced up and he's going out to fight him. That's a great scene. The final battle, and I really want to touch on this for a while, the final battle, the one thing that this movie gets right is understanding that this should be a boxing match between monsters. They're knocking down buildings, throwing cars at each other, using cars as boxing gloves. Like, this is what a Hulk movie should be. And I understand you absolutely cannot make a Hulk movie that is all that. It just would not make any sense. It would be way too much. It would be too loud. It would be too boring. It would have no character stakes. But the problem is this also has no actual character depth or growth or emotion. So then you're just waiting for the fun stuff to happen. And it takes a long time for the fun stuff to happen. When it does happen, I think that final battle sequence, as the way that they traverse through the city, the stakes of having all of these characters that you marginally care about enough to care that they don't die in an explosion is really fun. Having them think that they cured Hulk, which is a plot point that never fully plays for me. I think it's probably because it's a Hulk movie, and so you're pretty confident that they didn't cure the Hulk. But that's a plot point that never fully plays, but it always does land for me when they push him out of the helicopter and he doesn't transform, and then the fist coming out of the ground. Like, that's all really good. I will also say the design of the Abomination, I do not love it. I love the design of the Hulk. He is sinewy. This is probably the best the Hulk has ever looked. He's ripped and gross, and it looks like he hurts when he transforms. And that is also true of the Abomination, but I think the tiny little head, it feels Beetlejuicy. It feels Beetlejuicy in a way that I don't think they intended. But that is my overall thoughts on The Incredible Hulk. I don't think that it fully plays. I think that there's a lot of it that doesn't work. But when it works, it is working really well, and I think some of it is kind of fun. And also, I've just seen it too recently, and it makes me just don't watch this back to back with itself. This needs a 5 to 10 year gap to kind of make me forget all the stuff that I didn't like about it and sort of give it the benefit of the doubt again. Watching it year after year, it just didn't play for me. This is my least favorite MCU movie in the run so far, watching them chronologically, which is crazy because I really expected Captain Marvel to be that. But no, I enjoyed Captain Marvel. I can't say that as a general I enjoyed my experience watching The Incredible Hulk. Within the universe, it also doesn't fit because Tony Stark comes in at the end and he's talking to Thunderbolt Ross and he's talking about how he's developing this team, which is just not true. Like, as we get toward it, if I remember right, Iron Man 2 is the one where he's like, we're not putting you on the team. And so that maybe it'll work. I haven't seen Iron Man 2 in a very long time, so maybe it works in the sense that he thought he was building a team, but he actually wasn't. There's an odd feeling of like, oh, we have to tie this into itself, and it doesn't actually make sense, and it doesn't feel like they really knew where they were totally going with that. The most connection we can actually draw from this is that eventually Hulk will connect with Iron Man on some level. Eventually there will be a time where they meet, and that's the Avengers. But from a universal perspective, this is the movie that feels, I think, most separate from any of the other MCU things. And maybe it's just by nature of it being, the second movie that they produced, and they didn't really know what that was going to look like, so it's designed to kind of feel like its own little science fiction adventure thing. On a universal scale, it does not really fit in. It's always been that kind of bastard stepchild to the rest of the movies, and I think watching it in context of all the other movies really highlights that. This does not feel like a universe where Iron Man would show up. This doesn't feel like the kind of thing where Captain Marvel could be a part of it. This also sets up things that will eventually, way later down the line, come up in Brave New World. And I think it had absolutely no idea that was going to happen, so it's not like it's trying to set those things up. Thunderbolt Ross is a character that is important for the rest of these, and I think this does a good job of setting him up as a character that we care about. It does not do a good job of setting that up for the Hulk, but that's okay, because he's supposed to be reclusive and weird, and so when he comes back looking like Mark Ruffalo, I imagine it's gonna feel like, huh, sure, here's this guy, which is what it would have felt like either way. I did not love The Incredible Hulk. I just did not have a great time with it. There is some of it that I really like. I can't even say that I like the movie. I think that it is a frustrating watch. That said, I'm glad to have gotten it out of the way, and I'm excited to get to Iron Man 2 in our next video. So I will see you when that happens. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, anything of the like, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next, or do none of those things because I am not your dad.